Hey folks, I'm Joe Wetzel, the creator of Worldographer, and what we're going to be going over here is sort of a world building 101, how to kind of get started. We actually did do at least an article on getting started creating your campaign world a while back, and we'll put a link into that as well as a link to an article that kind of matches up with the text here. Um, but this is going to be kind of what we've learned kind of since then, what the focus is now, which to me is very much about time and time commitment, and what's essential, what do you need to do to get started, and where's your passion. Those are the two axes of world building. Getting started with world building is what's essential, and where's your passion. And so, you're certainly going to need, some sort of starting campaign area type thing for the campaign. You're going to need that starting town or village where the PCs are from. Um, you're going to need at least an adventure location of some type, maybe a couple. But do you need to detail all of the gods? No, you clearly don't. Some campaigns can get by with just saying, well, there's this good god and evil god, and maybe one or handful of others, and that's all the detail they really need. That there's a god of healing, and there's a god of war, and etc. And that's enough. Other times, people are passionate about the gods in their world, and they want to detail. Hey, here's my 25 different gods, and here's all of their focuses and what they're about and how they relate to each other and who likes who and who doesn't. And if that's something that you're passionate about, by all means, go ahead and detail that. And in some cases, it can become essential. If your campaign is all about, a war between the gods as on Earth, and the heroes are avatars of those gods. Well, then okay, detailing that pantheon is pretty important. Um, so it's like I said before, it's a function of what's essential and where's your passion. Um, but having said that, there's still things that you can do to kind of retroactively change things, or even just or change things as time goes on, and we'll get to that too. Um, so what I've got in front of you here, I haven't really talked at all about it yet. Like I said, the focus is not on our Worldographer software for this video, but wanted to show you this so we had an interesting graphic behind us. And so with Worldographer, you can go up to File and New World Kingdom Map and spec out, how large of a map do you want and some of the other details about the world, and it will generate that for you. And that's exactly what we did just a moment ago to get this. And in this case, it's a rather large map of over 1,000 hexes across and 500 or so top to bottom. So it ends up being, takes about 2 minutes for it to generate this amount of detail here. But then once you've got that, the Worldographer also will generate info about your world, and this is all based on some settings that you can change. You can configure some files and change things up. But we generate a number of cultures based on what languages are installed in the program at the moment. And so actually it will first choose either a new, and of course for the first time it will be a new nation, or it will, it's going to create a number of nations that you specify, and it will choose a new culture if needed, or it will maybe reuse some, because some nations, some cultures will span multiple nations, so you can have that replicated here. And then we also will generate a number of religions as well. And so each of these gives you some bulleted lists of what is this nation about. And same thing with the cultures, and same thing with the religions, and you can have a pantheon of religions. And so here you've got 11 gods in that religion. But this is all information that you can totally ignore when Worldographer creates that, or you can totally revise it, or you can regenerate just one pantheon, or regenerate just one god or one culture or whatever. But it's good that it gives you some stubbed information that you can go back to and you can customize. But as we were saying, it's not at all essential. You can get by with just saying, okay, hey, I want to create a nation here. And so I can just say, okay, well, here's my starting campaign area. Here I want to pull up the list of features. I'm going to filter these for the classic icons that we have that kind of fit this style best. But maybe I can want to throw a tower in the middle of the lake, or large lake. I guess that's a Great Lake. Maybe I want to have a castle up there. Maybe I want to move down here. I've got a port city over here, and I've got another city over here that's important, and a couple of towns laying around here. I'm just kind of almost randomly doing this, just looking at what the terrain is, and I can reshape this terrain. I could also go back up to the terrain drawer here and filter this also by classic, and I can say, well, I want to have some. This is mostly a jungle-ish area, so I can come down and I can do like some jungle hills, and I can change these into jungle hills, and I can do jungle hills, and I can say, okay, we've got mountains, but once we get up in the mountains, we're not really jungle anymore. Our temperature has changed a little bit. So we got that. So yeah, I can be customizing the terrain for my starting campaign area, and I can place down those particular locations. I can also, if I flip back to the features drawer, and again, here I am going into what Worldographer is doing for you, but this is all stuff that you can do with any map tool or paper or whatever. You can go ahead and just draw it out and place your different icons for these different structures and so forth. But here I can, in Worldographer, I can click on that particular feature there, this city, and I can say notes, and it's going to randomly generate some information about that city for us, and I can regenerate it if I want something different, and I can change these up if I had a particular idea that this particular city was 9,000 years old and very historic. I can do that sort of thing there. So you get that same thing for like this tower here in the lake. I can go notes have selected there, and it's going to generate that for me the first time. Thereafter, it's going to pull up the notes that I had before. So this is brand new. Nothing grows within 300 feet of it. Well, okay, so maybe we'd revise that to say that there's nothing, no plant or animal life, any sea creatures, keep away from it. That sort of thing. So that's that. You can also right-click on a hex, and you can say, hey, generate a random hex crawl detail. And so this is a way that you can flesh things out if you don't have anything in particular in mind, or if you like some randomness. Let's see what kind of minor detail we have. So here we've got some sort of a shrine, and it's 500 years old, and there's just one monk that tends to it. So that might give you a little bit of a story seed. A little bit of an interesting location for the players to go to. And then just wrapping up with the Worldographer stuff here. If I go to the lines, I can put in some sort of a trail or road line, whatever color I want to use for my roads. I can just go ahead and say that, and I can have my road going out like this. And I can, make that more curvy if I'd prefer, but just kind of showing you what you can do with the tool there. Likewise, we can go to polygon, and we can add tile border to polygon, and if I go back to this, if I switch to the border version, actually, let's put this back down to 5%, and I can, kind of spell out that this whole area here is part of this one kingdom. That's what this little tool does here. It's pretty cool that it will kind of add each hex to this particular kingdom pretty easily. And then I can say, I can then deselect that one and start another one where maybe this is mostly an underground kingdom. We've got some dwarves up here, and this is their realm. that sort of thing. So you can do your world building with this. We've got generated a map and see what those ideas are for you. You can also start with a blank map and completely fill everything in that you like. But let me get back to the world building 101 point of view here. Um, so a key thing to consider is what are your players' interests? If you want to have a very, say you want to have a world with no gods, something like Dragonlance was, the era of Dragonlance after the Cataclysm there. Um, if you have a bunch of players that, or a player who wants to play a cleric, that might not be a good fit. Or you're going to have to figure out some other way for them to do it where they've got there's some sort of mystical religion that they are a part of, some sort of druid-like thing that they're a part of, in order to pull that off. Yeah. So what do you do though? If you detail, even if you just detail a little bit more, we just started to detail this adjacent dwarven kingdom, and let's say that we don't want a dwarven kingdom there. We want something more evil. Well, maybe they were actually evil dwarves. The dual. I can never pronounce it correctly. Dorgor, Duergar. So what if they're that group, or the evil gnomes, which I can probably pronounce just as poorly as Snifniblim, whatever that is. I don't even think I can spell that one off the top of my head. So what if they are that instead? That it was just hey, the players are down here in this city, and there's even if these are 5 or 6 mile hexes, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So you're 30 miles away, and you might think, oh, 30 miles, not a big deal. Well, think about how far people would travel in that day and age. So 30 miles, you'd have to be a member of this town to maybe, before you would find out, oh, those aren't regular dwarves. Those aren't regular gnomes. That's something else. So you've got a great way to change the world is this concept, to borrow something from literature. You've got this unreliable narrative term that they have, where there's you're reading a point of view in a story from somebody, and it's somebody that has an agenda. They want to portray themselves in a good way. They want to portray this other group as being evil. They're going to tell the stories in a certain way. They're gonna paint things. They're gonna take events and paint them a certain way. So to say nothing of hey, maybe they're passing on a story from somebody else. And then you get into, well, it could be just completely unreliable. Then it's just a complete fiction. Especially if you consider the game of telephone. Where you pass a message along from person to person to person, and it ends up being something quite a bit different. So that's a great way for you to change what's known about this other kingdom or this other culture or religion. Getting into religion, I mean, you can have these holy books that can be twisted in completely different ways to promote completely different agendas. And that's something that happens in real life. To say that something like that could happen in a campaign world that's set with technology of 500 or more years ago is very easy to believe that something like that could happen. And then to tie this back into mapping, since Worldographer primarily is a map making tool. What if you were to describe this campaign area, and you give the players a map that has a bunch of other continents and so forth around, and you want to change that up for whatever reason? Well, if you think about it at the time, what were maps like back in what were maps like 500 or 1,000 years ago? How accurate were they? Well, they weren't. If an explorer might go off and scout that island and think it was a whole continent, and Um, the map that they make, has a continent there, and it's just an island. Um, or there are some ways that you could change your map, in case you wanted to say, well, that was the way it was. But there was a tsunami came through and totally changed the entire look of that particular um, of that coastline or of that area. Um, or any other natural disaster, earthquakes, volcanoes, etc. All these things could do that, and then that's not even relying or not even thinking about all the magical things that are going on. Because if we're primarily using this to create fantasy worlds, you've got a lot of magic things that could be going on, or hey, the gods are demonstrably real and take action in the world in a lot of cases, depending on your campaign. Sometimes you might have very hands-off gods. Other times you're going to have them, interacting with mortals regularly, or even just occasionally. And so, that continent could change into an island or vice versa, for a number of magical and mystical and religious ways. So I think that that covers the key points that I wanted to make when you're considering your creating your game world. It really boils down to do what's essential, do that starting campaign area, that starting town, village, and adventure location. Maybe a second or third adventure location, and feed a couple rumors if you want to give your players some more agency. That's a great way to kind of get them more involved in the storyline, is to let them kind of choose. If you've got three ideas that you're kind of planning, give them a couple of rumors and ask them where you planning to go next session. Then you can develop that a little bit, that particular one that they're going to choose, and then do a bare minimum about these other things, and follow your passion. If you are passionate about a particular aspect of the game world, including your players in those decisions. But that's what you want to do when you're creating your starting campaign area. And like I was saying, or like I was showing here, this little right click thing. There's a lot of different tools out there, a lot of different inspiration lists for hex crawl details, and so you can pick ours, or you can find some of these other sources. So here we've got a military encampment. So that might tell me, hey, somebody's marching on that town, or maybe that town needs some defense. Has that army as a defense of the town from this city here. Maybe there's two separate kingdoms down over on the other side of the Great Lake here. So those are all ways to be inspired as you're creating your starting campaign area. Well, I hope that's been helpful to you all. I'm Joe Wetzel, the creator of Worldographer, and like I said, we tried to make this video in a more general sense, not so focused on Worldographer. Please do subscribe and like and everything, so that you'll be up to date on any new videos and new articles and stuff that we throw out there. Thanks a bunch.